Mr. Chairman, thank you for the very kind remarks. And I'm struck as I look at the notepads we have here in the dais. I'm reminded it says the Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry. And Ranking Member Stabenow, I've got increased optimism as a new member of this committee with this bipartisan spirit, truly, that starts with leadership here between the chairman and the ranking member, that we may have a chance to move forward with some very important reforms that are so needed across our country, particularly out west as it relates to forest management. We'll hear more about that from our panel coming up, but I think I do hold the distinction now on the committee of having more national forest acreage than anybody else on this committee. I think we have about 17 million acres in Montana. I think Colorado is about 14 million, so that would be the silver medal. It drops off pretty fast after that. So I'll continue to be a voice on behalf of agriculture in Montana and on behalf of forestry. And thank you for the spirit of bipartisanship I see already in this committee. It's much appreciated.
Senator Daines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I heard you mention the potential delisting of the grizzly bear in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. I can tell you that the people of Montana can manage grizzly bear populations. We had the same debate with the wolves years ago. I have my own wolf tag here. I pulled out of my wallet. We manage wolves much better than the federal government ever could, and the people of Montana are ready, able, and capable of managing grizzly population. It's a tremendous success story. The grizzlies are at a record level population. This is what the Endangered Species Act is supposed to do. You recover the species, and then you delist the species. So we should celebrate the delisting and transfer that to the states. Chuck Roady, thanks for coming to this committee. I'm always happy to introduce a fellow Montanan. Thank God for some common sense back in Washington, D.C. We need you here. In your testimony, you mentioned the collaborative work you and others in the wood product industry have put forth. You are an example of someone who leads the collaborative efforts. You've built strong relationships with the Whitefish Range Partnership, the Kootenai stakeholders, the Montana Forest Restoration Committee, the Montana Forest Collaborative Network as well. You also mentioned several of the projects that these diverse groups supported that then were ultimately litigated and held up in court. Chuck, in the context of supporting the collaborative process and empowering the agency to implement these restoration projects, do you believe it is important that we protect collaborative projects from litigation and excessive regulation and find ways to empower their involvement?
Absolutely. Nothing is more frustrating than sitting in a Grange Hall or a school gym or any place that we've met, the county commissioners, and with all your partners, and you went down the list, Chris, and then you get blown out of the water after you finally agree on something, and of the people that did not come to the table and did not participate. So I don't want to exclude anybody out of this public comment, but we've been down that road and it doesn't work. And we need some deference to the collaborative. So if you've collaborated and 95% of the people been at that table, there's some deference and to get around the litigation. I mean, absolutely. There's got to, we've tried the other part, and I don't want to leave anybody out of the public comment, but it's the people that don't come to the table that stop the project.
Chuck, you've testified many times here in Washington, D.C. Here's a chance to express to the Ag Committee, Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, the answer to this question, and it's this: what, in your view, are the top reforms that Congress should pass that would have the most impact on restoring active management in our national forests?
And we could start by one you've helped sponsor, is to reverse the Cottonwood decision. The implications of that decision, people have no idea.
And incidentally, the Obama administration supported that.
Yes, I mean, it's...
We've got Senator Tester and I, Tester's with me on that, so we've got bipartisan support. Obama administration supported that, just for what it's worth.
First thing we could do, would help the most, is to reverse that.
Yep.
Secondly, is something on the litigation. And I'm willing to try deference to collaboratives, some arbitration, anything that would help us. I mean, when our current system pays people taxpayer money to sue the taxpayer to stop a project that doesn't move our society forward, something's not right. And we got to change that. And I see it and live it every day, and I want my kids and grandkids to have the same opportunities that I've had to enjoy those forests. And if we don't do something, a lot of those opportunities are going to be gone. I went out on a tangent there, but I mean that.
Yeah, and you talk about the threat to our watersheds. We've got municipalities right now that need to do timber projects here to reduce the threat of wildfires, to reduce some thinning. And we're getting hung up in court, which threatens the watersheds with the environmental disasters we have from a wildfire as we breathe the smoke, as we know as Montanans every August and September. Just get ready. It'll be coming again. Last question. You've been involved with other diverse partners to secure working landscapes on forest lands in northwest Montana through conservation programs administered by the Department of Ag. Briefly mention for me, if you would, your experience with the Forest Legacy Program and how has that impacted Stoltz?
Forest Legacy Program's a win-win. It's a program that my individual company has participated in, and it keeps private forest in private. We still pay the taxes, but we've agreed that we'll help protect. We own a municipal watershed. We own the city watershed of Whitefish, Montana. And then we use the Forest Legacy Program to help do that and put it in writing. That was a handshake deal for 100+ years. But it also creates public access. So those people in the public now can fish and hunt in perpetuity on our land. And that was through the Forest Legacy Program. And I can't stress enough, if we had more programs like that, it would be a big help.
Well, thank you. I'm out of time. I just remind the committee here, Chuck is also a conservationist leader with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for years. And this is the marriage of forest management and wildlife conservation go hand in hand. And I say that as a fellow elk hunter. Thanks, Chuck.